All right, guys, welcome back. Let's dive into integers series B. This is subtracting integers. First, let's look at these two review problems. We did some addition the other day, so let's look at these and recall how we might add these together. First, I'm going to look at this one and notice there are two groups of bad guys. What I want you thinking, which you need to be processing on and connecting the dots on, is that those are two groups of negative, so they're going to be a larger group of negatives. Okay, when we put these two guys together, bad guys and bad guys make more bad guys. Okay, you need to watch out because some of you might be thinking right now your initial reaction is I need to cancel those negatives. That's not true. That's a different operation. Okay, now whether I put the answer up here or here, it's the same thing. I'm combining these two guys together, and this is actually how it'll look when we start working on expressions later. So it's the same thing. Okay. Now here when we look at it, we've got some bad guys and we've got some good guys. So what do you need to do there? Hopefully you're telling me, Mr. A, we need to subtract because they're going to fight and kill each other. Good. I'm going to take 42 and I'm going to minus off that 27 because if I wrote this out, I've got a bunch of negatives, a bunch of positives, and we've got this effect where there's a whole bunch of canceling. How much canceling? We're going to find out in just a second as I subtract off. There's 15 left over. So now the question is, who brought more guys to the fight? There's more bad guys, 42 bad guys. So 15 negative is my answer. Okay. Notice something. Sometimes adding integers with negatives is an addition. Bad guys with bad guys make more bad guys. Sometimes adding integers is a subtraction because we've got mixed. Good guy and bad guy, meaning they're going to fight, they're going to cancel, and you're going to subtract. You need to watch so you know which type you're doing. All right, let's dive into today's lesson. Let's say we've got 6 minus 9. And learning my skills here. Nope. Yep. Wonderful, it worked. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our starting point. Because we started at 6, we've got 6 to begin with. It's like saying I have $6 minus 9, meaning I want to buy something that cost $9. I've got to subtract from my wallet $9. Okay, so what 6 minus 9 would look like is we start here at 6, and we've got to go negative. And I don't have enough. There's only 6 units to get to 0. So I've got to go 3 into the negatives. And it turns out that 6 minus 9 equals negative 3. That means I'd have to borrow $3 if I wanted to buy those items, or I would owe the store $3 still. I'm negative 3 now. And what if we did this? Let's do that same, or let's do a different problem that's actually an addition. 6 plus negative 9. And again, we start at 6 and plus negative 9, meaning we're going to hop those 9 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? 9 units of hops puts us in the exact same place. And how interesting. What do we find? Somehow we find that when I subtracted 9 from a 6, I end up at negative 3. But when I add negative 9 from 6, or with 6, I still end up at negative 3. This brings us to a really important point. Subtraction is really adding the opposite. Okay? If we look at this original problem, we had -9, and if we look at the second one that was written, I added -9, and I ended up in the same place both times. So subtraction of a number can just be rewritten as adding the opposite of that number. Okay? You might be saying, so what? Let me show you. On this page, -9 or plus -9 at the bottom. Let's say we have something like -57 minus 29. Does that look simple or easy as you first glance at it? It might very well look kind of confusing. Are we going to get a negative answer? Is it going to be farther negative, or is it going to be closer to 0? Is it maybe even going to go positive? Maybe, we're saying, I'm not sure what's going on here. Well, let's apply what we just learned. I'm subtracting 29 here. So what if I rewrite it as adding the opposite? Instead of -29, I'm now adding -29, which is exactly what we have. So it turns out those are equivalent, and now it becomes so much easier. Now I'm just adding 57 bad guys, 29 more bad guys, and it's just like the warm-up. It's just a bigger group of bad guys. So I'm just going to put 57 and 29 together. 16, 8. So it turns out there's 86 guys in this group, right? Hopefully somebody caught me. What are we forgetting? Those are bad guys. Bad guys and bad guys make more bad guys. Okay, so let's just look at that one more time. This is the original problem. And that's its answer. We're just seeing two groups of bad guys add to a larger group of bad guys. So the key here for you guys, the whole key to subtraction, is to begin seeing that you can turn any subtraction problem into addition by just throwing a plus sign right there in between. And now it becomes bad guys plus more bad guys. That negative sign, it starts as subtraction, but it's exactly the same as a negative symbol. You're allowed to do that all the time. You're always allowed to change it to addition, and the subtraction just becomes the negative of that second number. You guys try a few right now. I don't want you to solve them. I want you to rewrite them as addition, okay? So write these down. Just rewrite these as addition. Okay, pause it for a sec. Rewrite those as addition, and then see if you're right. Okay, hope you paused. If you want to rewrite it over here, we can just do this. And we just know that we can come right here, throw in a plus, and that subtraction sign becomes his negative. And again, it's very simple. We now have two groups of bad guys. And that's it. Put together the two groups of bad guys. Number 2, I'm just going to insert right in the problem. It's even easier. Right here, put in a plus, and now I've got 42 plus -11. I can see it's good guys and bad guys mixed, meaning I'm going to subtract. They're going to fight. They're going to kill each other. The only question is, what's the sign of the answer? I can see there were more good guys that came to the fight, so that's a positive answer. Okay, hopefully this is making sense, guys. We want to always get in the habit of rewriting subtraction as addition, and then we can just apply the addition we already know, good guys and bad guys, or bad guys with more bad guys. All right, what if it gets a little bit weirder looking? Sometimes we get stuff like this. That's a really negative problem. 1, 2, 3 different negatives. Holy cow. Well, it turns out anytime we have pairs of negatives, we can, in specific context, cancel those pairs. So what helps us understand it in this case is if I'm subtracting a negative, let's look at a number line real quick. -6, well, let's not put our 0 there. We're going to have to go really far into the negatives. So let's put 0 over here. If I'm here at -6 and I'm supposed to subtract a -14, well, if I added -14, that would be sending me out this direction. But subtraction tells me I have to flip it around. So why don't we color code here? Subtraction tells me I've got to change the direction. If I'm pushing farther negative to with the 14, subtracting that amount means I've got to flip it around the other way, and I'm actually pushing upwards by 14. Okay? Because this original problem, -6 plus -14, that's what we see right here, moving farther to the left, farther negative. But that's not the problem. The problem isn't supposed to be pushing out farther into the negatives. We're saying minus a -14, which forces us to go back this direction, so we end up with this problem. -6 minus -14. And we can see here if we start at -6 and then we go 14 to the right, that's actually just adding 14. And so here, those two negatives became a positive. And they've got a crazy little face there. And again, we've now got good guys, bad guys. They're going to fight and kill each other, which means subtraction. 14 minus 6 is 8. There were more good guys, so it's a positive answer. And if we were to finish this number line, I think that's 8. That's where we would end up. Okay? Let's do another one real quick. And it doesn't matter if there's a negative on the front of the problem. It's just the negatives in the middle of the problem. Okay, so right here we see we're subtracting a negative, which means we can rewrite that. Those can cancel. And we can either, we can either cancel them as a pair like that, or you can cancel them together with one big plus right in the middle, whatever makes sense. Either way, we end up with 14 plus 8, and that one's 22. Okay? Any pair of negatives are going to cancel when it's minus a negative like that. All right. There's two possible scenarios then. Okay? All subtraction is either going to look like this or like this. We've either got one negative to deal with to rewriting it as addition, or we've got a double negative. We're subtracting a negative, and so we've got to rewrite that as addition. Okay? Those are the only two possible cases. And again, 7 minus 13, we're always allowed to rewrite it as addition, and then that subtraction sign pushes over and becomes the negative. Now we've got good guys, bad guys, and they'll fight and kill each other, which means a subtraction. Okay? Over here on the right, we've got 22 minus -4. And if we're subtracting negatives, those are going to cancel. That pair is both going to cancel. Therefore, we now are back to good guys, and it's a very easy add good guys with good guys. And there's your answer. Okay? It's always going to be those two cases. The way it may look more difficult, my eraser's not working. The way it might look more difficult, but it's actually not, is sometimes there might be another negative on the front of the problem. That doesn't actually matter. This guy here doesn't matter. It doesn't impact the problem at all. All it tells us is that you have 8 bad guys at the beginning of the problem instead of 8 good guys. We still can come right here and rewrite it as addition. That means the subtraction means negative, so 22 bad guys. And now the problem turns out to be bad guys plus bad guys, larger group of bad guys. Same thing on this side. We might have a negative on the front, which is how we get this triple negative type of look. That's okay. The only ones that matter are the 2 in the middle, and we can rewrite those 2 because that pair cancels. We'll never cancel this. We'll never do anything with this. That is simply the sign on the 13 telling us 13 bad guys. We only work with the negatives in the middle. Bad guys. Good guys, we know there's going to be a fight. We're going to subtract. Answer is 1, and there were more good guys, so it's positive 1. All right. I think I've talked long enough. I'm going to stop there, and we're going to get you guys some practice problems.